Your 3-year-old is screaming in the middle of Target because you said no to the toy they grabbed. Everyone is staring. Feel like the worst mother on the planet? But what if I told you that this tantrum isn't your fault and it's not your child being bad? What if everything you think you know about tantrums is completely wrong? Stay with me for the next 20 minutes, because I'm about to share Maria Montessori's revolutionary discovery about what's really happening in your toddler's mind during these meltdowns. By the end of this video, you'll never see tantrums the same way again. If you're a tired mom who's ever cried in your car after a public meltdown, hit subscribe right now. You need to hear this. Picture this moment with me. You're in the grocery store pushing your cart down the cereal aisle. So your toddler spots the colorful boxes and points with pure joy. Cookie cereal? Cookie cereal. But you've already said no 3 times this week. You gently redirect toward the oatmeal, and suddenly the world explodes. The screaming starts. Not just crying, that deep, guttural wail that seems to come from somewhere primal. Your child throws themselves backward in the cart, arching their little body like they're in physical pain. Other shoppers glance over with that mixture of sympathy and judgment you know so well. Your face burns hot with embarrassment. You feel that familiar cocktail of emotions rising in your chest. Anger at the public spectacle. Guilt that maybe you should have just bought the cereal. Helplessness because nothing you're doing is working. And underneath it all, that crushing question that follows you home. Why is this happening again? I'm doing everything I can, ... Why does it still feel like I'm failing? You carry your screaming child out of the store, your own eyes stinging with tears. You'll cry later in the bathroom when they finally fall asleep. Because that's what we do, isn't it? Okay? We hold it together in the moment, then fall apart in private, wondering what we're doing wrong. But here's what will blow your mind. Everything you think you know about tantrums is backwards. Your child isn't being defiant. They're not trying to manipulate you. They're not even being bad. What's happening is something completely different. And once you understand it, everything changes. I'm speaking to you as Maria Montessori. And over a century ago, I made a discovery that revolutionized how we understand children's behavior. I spent countless hours watching toddlers, really watching them. Not judging their actions, not trying to control them, but observing with the curiosity of a scientist and the heart of a mother. What I discovered will change how you see your child forever. When we see a toddler having a meltdown, we see chaos, we see disobedience, we see a child who needs discipline. But when I watched these same moments with different eyes, I saw something extraordinary. I saw a human being in the midst of the most intense internal struggle of their young life. Here's what's really happening inside your toddler's brain and body that nobody tells you about. Every morning, your child wakes up driven by an incredible force, what I call the developing will. This isn't stubbornness, though it looks exactly like it. This is the fundamental human drive toward independence, toward mastery, toward becoming who they're meant to be. Your 18-month-old sees you putting on your shoes and every cell in their body screams, "I can do that too." They don't want your help. They want to conquer this challenge themselves. But here's the devastating part. Their fingers aren't ready for laces. Their balance isn't there for standing on one foot. Their brain knows what it wants to do, but their body can't execute it yet. This gap between burning desire and physical limitation creates a frustration so intense that it can only be expressed through their entire body. This is where tantrums are born. Not in defiance, but in the collision between a powerful inner drive and the reality of being a toddler. But wait, there's more happening that will shock you. Children have an innate need for order that runs deeper than most parents realize. They crave predictability, rhythm, routine, like adults crave oxygen. When a toddler melts down because you put the green cup in the dishwasher instead of the blue one, everyone thinks they're being ridiculous. But it's not about the cup at all. Imagine if every day the rules of gravity changed randomly. Sometimes things fell up, sometimes sideways, sometimes not at all. You'd feel completely untethered, anxious, unable to navigate safely through your day. This is exactly how a toddler feels when their world lacks the gentle structure. Their developing brain desperately needs to make sense of reality. Here's something that will blow your mind. Most tantrums happen during transitions. Getting ready to leave the house, coming inside from playing, bedtime, bath time. These moments require children to shift from one state of being to another. And their still developing brains literally struggle with these changes. What looks like resistance is actually overwhelm. Some toddlers will scream when it's time to stop playing and eat lunch. Not because they're being difficult, but because stopping one activity and starting another requires executive function skills they're still building. Their brilliant little minds are learning to hold two competing things at once: the joy of what they read doing now and the necessity of what comes next. When they can't bridge that gap smoothly, their nervous system floods with pure stress. And here's the part that will break your heart. We often make tantrums worse without meaning to. When we see our child melting down, our own nervous system goes into panic mode. We feel embarrassed, frustrated, desperate to make it stop immediately. We raise our voices, issue ultimatums, or try to reason with a child whose logical brain has temporarily shut down completely. But picture being that overwhelmed child for a moment. You're already drowning in emotions you don't have words for. And suddenly, the person you love most in the world is also upset. Their voice is loud and scary. Their face looks angry or disappointed. Instead of feeling soothed and understood, you feel more alone and terrified than ever. This doesn't mean you're a terrible parent. Means you're human. Means you're responding from your own activated nervous system, trying to solve a problem you've been taught to see as behavioral when it's actually developmental. But here's where everything changes. And this is the most important thing I'll tell you today. Once we understand what's really happening during a tantrum, our entire response transforms. Instead of seeing a child who needs to be controlled, we see a child who needs to be understood. Instead of seeing defiance, we see a little human being doing their absolute best with the limited tools they have. When we observe, instead of immediately reacting, we start to notice life-changing patterns. This child always melts down when they're hungry or tired. That child struggles most when there's been too much noise or stimulation. Another child falls apart when their routine changes without warning. These aren't character defects. They're valuable information about your unique child's needs. The moment we stop taking tantrums personally, we can begin to respond with wisdom instead of panic. We can name the emotion without trying to fix it immediately. You're so frustrated that we have to leave the park. You are having such a wonderful time building in the sand. We not trying to stop the feeling. We showing our child that their emotions are valid and completely understandable. We can prepare our environment to reduce the daily friction that leads to meltdowns. This might mean having clothes laid out the night before so morning routines flow smoothly. It might mean offering two acceptable choices instead of overwhelming, open-ended questions. Would you like to put on your shoes or your jacket first? Instead of what do you want to do now? We can create gentle rhythm and ritual that helps children feel secure in an unpredictable world. Not rigid schedules that stress everyone out, but comforting patterns that help young nervous systems stay regulated. The same song during teeth brushing. The same order of bedtime activities. Small anchors of predictability in a world that often feels chaotic to developing minds. But here's the most powerful shift of all. We can hold space for our children's big emotions without needing to make them disappear instantly. Some of the most beautiful moments I witnessed happened not when parents rushed to stop the crying, but when they sat quietly nearby, offering their calm presence like a warm, safe harbor in the storm. I remember observing a mother whose toddler was sobbing because their carefully built tower of blocks had crashed down. Instead of rushing to rebuild it or distracting the child with something else, she simply sat down on the floor nearby. "Your tower fell down," she said gently. "You worked so hard building that beautiful tower." She didn't try to make the sadness disappear. She just witnessed it with complete compassion and understanding. The child cried for a few more minutes, then crawled into their mother's lap for comfort. Together, they looked at the scattered blocks on the floor. "Build again." the child asked with renewed hope. And they did, this time with the child feeling truly seen and understood rather than rushed past their disappointment. This is the revolutionary shift that changes everything about parenting. When we stop seeing tantrums as emergencies to resolve quickly and start seeing them as communication from a developing human being, we become our children's allies instead of their opponents. Your toddler is on giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time navigating this complex world with a brain that's still under construction. They're not choosing to melt down any more than you choose to feel completely exhausted at the end of a challenging day with them. Understanding this reality doesn't mean we become permissive or stop guiding our children's behavior. It means we guide from a place of deep compassion rather than mounting frustration. We set gentle, necessary boundaries while acknowledging how difficult it is for little ones to accept those limits. Clothes with simple fasteners they can manage independently. Toys organized in inviting ways that encourage purposeful exploration rather than overwhelming chaos. The goal was never to eliminate all tantrums completely. They're a normal, healthy part of human development. The goal is to understand what our children are desperately trying to communicate through their behavior, and to respond in ways that honor both their developmental needs and our family's important values. When we make this fundamental shift in understanding, something absolutely beautiful happens. Not only do our children feel more understood and connected to us, but we feel infinitely more confident as parents. Instead of walking on eggshells wondering when the next explosion will hit, we develop unshakable trust in our ability to navigate challenging moments with grace and wisdom. We stop blaming ourselves for every difficult behavior and start seeing ourselves as compassionate guides, helping young human beings learn to navigate an incredibly complex world. We realize that our patience and understanding aren't signs of weakness, but profound gifts we offer our children as they grow into themselves. Think of tantrums exactly like weather storms. They build atmospheric pressure, they intensify with thunder and lightning, they release their energy, and then they naturally pass. Your role is on to control the weather or stop the rain from falling. Your role is to be the safe, sturdy shelter that keeps your child protected while the storm runs its course. You don't have to have perfect responses in every challenging moment. You don't need all the answers or flawless patience. You just need to show up consistently with love and the deep understanding that this difficult phase will pass as your child's brain continues developing. The overwhelmed mother in that grocery store scenario we started with. She wasn't failing her child. She was courageously loving a little human being who was drowning in their own developing capabilities and the overwhelming complexity of the world around them. Her child wasn't being deliberately difficult. They were simply being a toddler, which is actually the hardest job in the world. If you've been carrying heavy guilt about your child's tantrums, if you've been lying awake wondering what you're doing wrong as a mother, I need you to hear this truth. You are absolutely enough. Your imperfect love is enough. Your willingness to learn and grow alongside your child is more than enough. Tomorrow, when that next challenging moment inevitably arises, and it will, because that's exactly how children develop and grow, you have a powerful choice to make. You can see defiance and disobedience, or you can see normal development. You can react from your own triggered emotions, or you can respond from deep understanding. You can focus all your energy on stopping unwanted behavior, or you can focus on truly supporting the whole child having the behavior. This path isn't always easy to walk, but it's always worth choosing. Every single time you choose understanding over harsh judgment, connection over control, patience over frustration, you're not just helping your child through one difficult moment. You're building the foundation for a relationship that will serve and strengthen both of you for decades to come. Your child's tantrums aren't evidence of your parenting failures. They're actually proof that you're raising a human being with their own thoughts, feelings, opinions, and developing sense of self. How absolutely beautiful and miraculous is that? How worthy of our deepest patience and compassion is that incredible process? Take a slow, deep